Hi everyone, welcome to Free Movement Sewing. So today I'm going to share with you a very special tip and trick and a hack if you are really struggling in working with stretch fabrics. And by stretch fabrics, I mean like synthetic fabrics like spandex and lycra and stretch mesh. A lot of four-way stretch fabrics, synthetic fabrics. By synthetic, I mean things that are like polyester, spandex, not cotton, because cotton is a very natural material. So if you're struggling with that and you feel like when you're trying to sew and your stitches just don't look right, or the stitches keep stitching, or your fabric just keeps stretching, or it keeps bunching up while you're sewing, okay, here is going to be my holy grail trick and hack for you, and you're gonna thank me so much for it. So without further ado, let's go. All right, so over here I have just a four-way stretch spandex, okay, or some people call it lycra. All right, so just different names, different users. Basically it is four-way stretch, and I don't mind Tiger running around. he's just part of everything. So okay, so by four-way stretch, I mean that if we're going to pull this way, there's going to be stretch. If I'm going to pull it this way, there's going to be stretch as well. But for this particular one, there's more stretch on the horizontal side over here. So it goes according to the seam lines, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to work with the very stretchy part of it, which mostly is what people actually struggle with, okay? So what you're going to need is a handy dandy piece of paper. So this is just a piece of printing paper. Okay, of course I have my logo there, free movement. So what happens is when you're actually sewing and you feel like the fabric keeps stretching or it keeps bunching up, okay, what you're going to do is you're actually going to grab a piece of paper and line it along the straight edge. Okay, this mainly works if you're working with a straight line, not so much if you're working with like a curved line or anything like that. All right, so piece of paper, your four-way stretch spandex, okay, we're going to go into a zigzag stitch. All right, let me just turn the camera so you can see what my settings are. So this is a Singer Stylist. I love this sewing machine. This is one of the sewing machines that we sell as well. But if you're looking for a great sewing machine that is more computerized, this is definitely one great option. All right. The main thing is you can of course control the speed over here. That's not something I use anymore. That's just because I'm very familiar with the machines. But anyway, it's up to you what you want to do. Okay, so what we're going to use is we're going to use the zigzag stitch, because this is mostly the stitch that actually starts to skip, especially if you're not sure how to actually use it. So I'm going to go to zigzag stitch. Okay, I'm going to leave the length at 2, width at 5. Width at 5 is kind of big, so I'm going to make it 4. Okay, length at 2, let's go 3 and then just see how it goes. Okay, I'm just playing around, but whatever technique or whatever that you are going to use, it's definitely going to be okay. All right, now coming back here, all right, the next thing I want to make sure that you are actually using is that you are actually using a stretch needle. All right, so if you're not sure what a stretch needle is, okay, basically it helps to work with stretch fabrics. Now, different types of needles for different types of fabrics, but because we mainly specialize in stretch fabrics, okay, we definitely recommend getting our stretch needles. Now you can go over to your local sewing supply stores and ask them for stretch needles, but I'll probably do another YouTube tutorial about needles and what I feel works and what I feel doesn't work. Things like microtex doesn't work, and that's also because we're working a lot with synthetic fabrics. All right, moving on. Now what you're gonna do is, okay, I'm gonna use the side of the footer, okay, as my edge. I'll zoom it in later. I'll use the side of the footer as an edge, and I will use the fabric at the edge as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to line the paper right on top. Okay, different schools of thoughts. Some people would say put the paper down below, meaning paper first and then fabric on top. Okay, same thing, line it up. So you could definitely try that, okay, but what I usually do is I would usually use a piece of paper on top. Okay, now I'm using just regular printing paper, but there are you could also use tracing paper and all different types of paper. Just try to use something that's not too thick. okay? Sometimes I even use post-its, just grabbing whatever I have on hand, especially with small piece, or if I don't need such a big piece of paper, sometimes I'll just tear out a piece of paper and then just put it on to use it for a small part. All right, so you don't have to use a whole chunk of paper like that. I'm just using this for demonstration. Okay, now I'm going to zoom you in. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Okay, very nice. So I have my side of the footer here. I'm exactly going to line the fabric to the side of the foot. Same thing with the paper. Okay, I'm going to line it this way. All right. So from here, okay, you definitely want to make sure that your needle is in first. So do the same thing, you know, you have to do your back stitch. If not, later when you remove the paper, everything's going to come out. So make sure to do your back stitches first. Okay, I'm going to back stitch. Okay, now, okay, this fabric's not very straight, but anyway, I'm just going to line the paper here this way. Okay, just turn you down slightly. And yeah, you're going to see how this goes. Okay, so I'm just letting it run. I'm not doing anything special. Okay, I'm stopping because I'm nearing the edge of the paper. And I'm going to backstitch. Okay, remember when you backstitch, come back forward to lock everything in place. Okay, once I'm done, alright, I'm going to lift the needle up. And I'm going to lift the footer up, pulling it back inside. Alright, and just grabbing my snippers. And I'm just going to cut the thread away. Alright, so I'm using black thread here so you can actually see how this looks. So what's going on now? Okay, I'm going to zoom out. Okay, so what's happening now is that you can actually see the zigzag going on over here as well as the fabric. Okay, now of course when you're sewing any apparel, you're not going to leave the paper on. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to slowly tear the paper away. Okay, so that being said, okay, of course the thicker the paper, the harder it is that you're going to need to tear it away. The thinner the paper, the easier it is that you're going to tear it away. Now, if you go over the sewing supply store, there are also sewing paper that will actually dissolve when you actually wash it. So that is one option that you can use, but of course that's a more expensive option. Typically I don't do that. Typically I grab a piece of paper, depending on what kind of fabric I'm doing. Okay, now what happens from here is you're actually going to, okay, let me just look at the stitches first. Alright, can you see the stitches? So the zigzag stitches are not skipping. Alright, so you can see it's actually really nice. So what happens from here is, okay, you can see that the needle has punctured the holes there through the paper. Okay, so now you're going to have to tear away the paper. So what I like to do is I generally like to do it one side at a time. Okay, so you're just going to gently kind of just tear it away. Okay, what I don't like to do is I don't like to kind of just like yank it all this way, because the moment you do that, sometimes the stitches actually run, and because you're working with stretch fabrics, right, the thread sometimes will start to bunch up and stuff like that, so it's not really nice. So I like to kind of be a little bit gentler and smoother with it, and not just like, you know, yank the whole thing out, because you can see, you know, the thread would actually start to loosen in a sense. Yeah, all right, so you just want to slowly, you know, kind of tear it away. If you want to, you can also use water, but I don't like to do that. Also because we work a lot with specialty fabrics, so that's not something I want to do. Okay, so okay, you get the idea. Basically, you want to slowly tear the paper away, and you want to make sure to be as gentle as possible. Okay, now this is with one layer of fabric. All right, so you could also do this with 2 layers of fabric, with 3 layers of fabric, you know, whatever it is that you actually need for it. Okay, this just works as like a stabilizer, right? So it kind of is the same thing as buying the stabilizers from a sewing shop. Yeah, anyway, okay, let me just do this quick. Tiger's just watching us. Hi, Tiger. Hi, Tiger. Hello, Tiger. Good to see your face. You're funny. Love you. Okay. So, anyway, all right. So basically, you can see once you actually start to tear the paper away, the zigzag stitches still remains. Okay. The only thing to take note is if you feel like the stitches are not as tight as you want it to be, remember to play with the tension. Okay. So make the tension higher so that the stitches are not so loose. Okay. If you want it even looser, then of course loosen the tension. But I wouldn't suggest doing such loose tensions, if you are trying to do this. Okay. Because the thing is, once you tear away the paper, there's going to be excess space anyway. So you see, I yanked the piece of paper out and you see that loop over there. So if you want to make the tension tighter, you could go ahead to do that, yeah. But this is definitely one of the methods that we do, just to, especially if we're working with very, very stiff fabrics. Okay, like I said, you don't have to use a whole chunk, a big piece of paper like that. You could always just use a small strip or even a post-it, just to put it at the side and just keep sewing with that. All right. Tiger. Okay, so yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Drop it down in the comments below. But if you found this useful, please, it will help us so much if you like and subscribe. Okay, definitely see you again next week. If you have any questions, let us know. Definitely answer you. And yeah, for those who actually asked for this, I hope this is helpful for you. Okay, if you have any other questions regarding stretch fabrics or regarding dancewear or basically sewing anything at all, okay, let me know in the comments down below. Happy to have you here, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. Tiger, say bye. Bye, everyone.